Chase, and we are jam-packed in hour number 2. Here it comes. It is time to get up with an explanation for the inexplicable. We will tell you why Urban Meyer did it, and more importantly, whether or not it'll work in Jacksonville for Tim Tebow. Plus, what the season means for the young quarterback in Philly. Is he ready to silence all the doubters once and for all? And has this season changed everything for Steph Curry? Should he now be in the discussion with the greatest players of all time? Answers to those and other questions as we get up with you starting right now. With the news official, Tim Tebow is a Jaguar. You know his history, but in case you don't remember, let's run through it. In college, he was great, a legend at nearby Florida, coached by Urban Meyer, part of 2 national championship teams, won the Heisman in 2007, became a first-round pick in Denver, 2010, spent just 2 seasons there, followed by 1 with the Jets, and then training camp stints with the Patriots and Eagles. From there, he went to baseball. Mets signed him to a minor league deal in 2016, spent 4 seasons in that organization, never made it to the majors, and now he is back in the NFL, this time trying to make it as a tight end and reuniting with his college coach Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. Of course, very close to where he grew up and starred on the college level. You see him there. He's wearing uniform number 85. That was the picture of him there. He's been targeted on exactly 1 pass in his collegiate and NFL career. That was an incompletion in 2012 for Mark Sanchez. He's played 37 NFL games. The last of those was more than 3,000 days ago. If he makes it on the team this year, he'd be the 7th player ever to go more than 8 years between games. But there are obviously a lot more questions than there are answers here. And Mike T, let's start. You brought up earlier, when you brought Tebow into the Jets once upon a time, you were hearing from the agent for Mark Sanchez. What are the pitfalls here for Urban Meyer?
Greeny, that's exactly right. Trevor Lawrence's agent, I'm sure, has called Jacksonville and said, what are you doing? Nothing good comes out of this. Because what happens if Tebow has some success, maybe it's a quarterback sneak, and then Trevor Lawrence, who we all think is going to be a great quarterback, he will have growing pains. There's no doubt about it. And when he throws a pick 6, is this going to create a quarterback controversy? I don't think it will, but why would you put yourself in that position if you're Jacksonville? Your entire future is about Trevor Lawrence's development. To bring in Tim Tebow, who hasn't played, as you said, in over 10 years as a backup tight end, makes no sense whatsoever. And if I'm Trevor Lawrence's agent, I'm really upset about it, and I'm going to make sure that you, Jacksonville, knows about that.
Yeah, if risk reward is sort of how we balance everything in life, it does feel like there's some risk, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what the reward could potentially be. Bart Scott, what are your thoughts?
Well, listen, Greeny, in our sport, we've had many players change positions before, right? And we call it, just throw them in there, we call it baptism by fire. You're going to throw them into the lion's den. But if Tebow was really serious about trying to make a football team, he wouldn't try and play tight end. Because you know where he would try and play? He would try and play H-back, fullback. That's a better position. But you know what? When you want to play that position, you know what you got to have? You got to be ready for all the smoke, Greeny. You got to be able to flatten that buzz cut because you got to go down there and you got to try and put a dent in the wall. At tight end, he has no chance, no experience, no ability to run routes. Look at that. That's the most rounded off route. That will make a quarterback, throw a pick 6. That's not going to get the job done. If he was trying to be a player in this league, he would be all about playing H-back and fullback because that's the only place where he can maybe transition. He don't know how to run a route. Listen, this is a joke right now, and he's the show.
That pass that we keep showing you over and over again, when I reference the one time he has been targeted in his life, pro or collegiate, that was the pass. That's the one play we're talking about from 2012. Rob Ninkovich, your thoughts?
I was there, Greeny. I was there.
Yes, in spirit, so was I. Rob Ninkovich, your thoughts?
I've already seen all the social media and people having a picture of Tim Tebow walking with a receiver, and underneath the caption says, Tebow looking thick. I mean, I hated OTAs in minicamp. You know why I didn't like them? Because there was always somebody in a T-shirt and shorts that was big into the weight room. They looked great with that shirt on and the shorts, and they ran everything perfectly. The coaches were saying, wow, look at this guy. He looks pretty good in a workout. But then guess what? When training camp came around, when you put the pads on, it didn't matter how great you look in a T-shirt and shorts. When you put the helmet on, you put the shoulder pads on, that's when you separate who can play and who can't. And especially when you're in the trenches, when you're a tight end and you're doing one-on-one against a DN who's been playing DN his whole life, who knows hand work, footwork, right place with your feet to be, with your hand placement and throwing people around. I just don't think that the transition from quarterback, where you're not ever using that type of technique, down into the trenches where guys have literally been working on these techniques since they were in high school, peewee, I just don't think it can possibly work out. And if he's not going to be a blocker and he's not going to be a number one tight end, he's got to do something else besides being a tight end, a third tight end. He's got to be on special teams. He's got to run down a kickoff. He's got to play punt team. He's got to do something. And when he was with the Jets, I remember he was on punt team. We didn't really account for him because we weren't afraid that Tim Tebow was going to run down there and blow up the punt returner. So I personally don't think it's going to work. I think a lot of guys on that roster, they're going to look at this as kind of a circus right now.
Go ahead, Bart.
Hey, Rex used to have a saying, Greeny, on every sack film is a tight end. And Tim Tebow is going to be on a lot of sack films. Listen, he's going to have to look at the movie Get Hard because he's going to be out there getting treated like MC Mayo, Will Ferrell out there and show him your tough face.
Mike T, go ahead.
Yeah, when you're building a team, every draft choice, every roster spot, every single cap dollar is hugely consequential. The NFL is so competitive. And if you're Urban Meyer, there is really no upside. We've talked about this. I don't know what he's thinking about because this is just going to hurt his credibility. And you're taking a precious roster spot that could go to a younger player and you're bringing in somebody that could only hurt the development of your franchise quarterback. I just don't see the upside in this move. I don't understand it. It's just not a good use of allocation of resources. And if you love Tim Tebow, and there are a lot of great attributes about Tim, bring him in as a coach, bring him in as an advisor, bring him in as a coaching intern, whatever it may be. There's ways you could get the good out of Tim without all these negatives.
Yeah, it may be that that's where all this winds up when all is said and done. We shall see. Anyway, I feel like I failed to deliver on my tease. I said we will explain the inexplicable. Candidly, I don't think any of us can explain it because I can't figure out a way in which it makes sense. Hold that thought, Bart. I'm coming back to you. But we got to get to the hoop because we got a big game tonight. And then we got 8 playoff games this weekend. Steph Curry will be back on the floor tonight looking to continue his historic season in a winner-take-all play-in game against the Grizzlies. Curry, as you know, led the NBA in scoring this year for the second time. Yesterday, he was named as one of 3 MVP finalists. And let's dive into him and his season here a little bit with the 2 guys who did it with me on radio yesterday. Timmy Legs brought it up, and then Zach Lowe, as always, jumped in. I don't need to tell you if you love basketball. The Low Post podcast is where the conversation takes place. And Zach, just picking up on the thought that Tim Legler gave us yesterday on radio and then earlier on this show here today. The season that Steph Curry has had, carrying this team as he had, what has it done, in your view, for his